The Ambitious Africans podcast is building more than conversations. We're building a thinking community. If you're navigating a challenge, transition, or decision in your personal or professional journey, we invite you to share it with us using the link below. Selected reflections will be discussed in future episodes where other listeners will offer their perspective, insights, and lived experiences. This is not about having it all figured out. It's about learning out loud, hearing different viewpoints, and lightening the mental load by thinking together. Your submission can be anonymous, and the goal is perspective, not judgment. Go into the show notes below, fill out the form, and share your challenges, ideas, thoughts, and decision points with us, and we'll be more than happy to give you some directions. Dear ambitious African, this is your host, Secho. In this podcast, we'll discuss everything about our journeys and experiences towards achieving our goals for life and work as phenomenal change leaders in our varied communities. We'll feature other ambitious Africans crushing it through arts, social activism, tech innovations, entrepreneurship, and positive lifestyle and holistic well-being. We are the generation that is redefining Africa as we know it, and as an ambitious African, now is the time to get involved. Give us your feedback and ideas for our next podcast, and let's keep the conversations going. See you inside. Hi. Welcome to the Ambitious Africans podcast. This is your host, Secho, and I hope you had an amazing day today. I had an okay day today. What did I get up to? I was up all night last night doing some work, so I had a bit of a deadline to submit a few things. So did that, then woke up to review the things I was supposed to submit. Just, fresh eyes. And so I had an earlier morning today, but in between I had to take a long nap because it was quite a hectic couple of hours. And I think that nap did me some good because now I have so much energy to do some more work. But yeah, that has been a bit of my day. I am super excited about today's episode. I feel like I'm going to come update what this list of items I've noted down in this episode as I go on. But the whole import of this episode, and you'll see by the description and the title, what I'm trying to do with this episode is to say the not so obvious, right? I feel like people say a lot of things about moving abroad, and they're usually like the logistics, the planning, and things like that. But I really want to talk about the internal things and just a bit about the processing of your experience here. I don't have the proper term to describe the theme of what I'm going to talk about, but just listen to my perspectives on things, and I hope you find it useful. Useful. This episode is particularly for you if you're planning to move abroad for whatever reason, work, study, etc. It's also for you if you're already living abroad. If you've been living abroad for a couple of years, this is also for you. I guess this is also another way to bring some highlights to some of the experiences that we are constantly unpacking, and to have a constructive conversation around the experience of living elsewhere. Now, I don't want this episode to be like living in the whatever country series, culture shocks kind of content. No. I think you already have enough of those content. In fact, if that's what you're looking for, you should probably ditch this episode and go listen or go watch something else and come back later when you want us to have something thoughtful to talk about. But yeah, this is going to just be sharing of perspectives on really just unpacking the experience of living anywhere abroad. abroad could be you are living in the West, going to the East of the same continent. You're moving from where you were raised to a different country. I don't want it to be like, oh, you went to a so-called developed country and now you have to make a whole fuss out of it. I feel that is so overplayed. It's too played out in our conversation, so much that it's not bringing nuance and just practical realism to just the phenomenon of moving to a new place. Like, just moving to a new place in whatever capacity will expose you to new things. That is a fact of life, because we are human beings and nowhere it's the same. There's so much, right? So let's not make a big fuss about moving to the West or moving to the East. No, I'm not going to do that. But this is just like, generally, because we are global thinkers, this is just to give you some ideas on what that looks like. Now, the first thing I want to say is that my perspective on moving anywhere is based on my deep belief that human beings should have access to the earth they live in. Now, like, do you get how it's an interesting dynamic that you're born into this earth, and because of air quotes systems, you can't explore the neighborhood you were born in. Like, just think about it. Do you see how warped that concept is, and why an awareness of the world systems we live in is just so funny, and it's interesting, if I can call it that way. But that is how I see things. I feel like the fact that we have legs means we move. People move from place to place. And so, as a human being, it is in your natural expression to move and want to move and see what else is out there, right? And so when you do make that move, there are different things you're going to see. There are going to be nice things. There are going to be different things. You're like, oh, okay, that's a whole part. It's a part of the whole experience. But because, I mean, people like to operate and think in this different dimension of comparing, west to east, or I don't know, developed to developing, then it becomes a conversation that's so prejudiced in on unhealthy comparisons, and just giving people this idea that just because you move to a particular place means you are privileged in some way. It's in an ideal world, we should all be able to see this neighborhood we were born in, this community we were born in. Yeah, from the minutest, knowing all the insides of your house, to knowing all the houses in your village or in your town or in your city, to knowing all the countries in your region, to knowing all the countries in your continent, to knowing all the continents of the earth. That as a human being, we should have that. So this is my level of thinking around these things. Now I'm going to share my own experience based on that idea that this has been like my own lessons living abroad for the last couple of months. I haven't lived here for a long time. I'm currently in the United Kingdom, and I am here to study, right? Um, and because there are so many different considerations, because if you're here to continue your education, your experience with navigating different things might be different from if you're here to, I guess, study and look for greener pastures and move here. Like, those things are all different, but we are not going to get into any of this. The first lesson that I have learned is, do not change your accent, and it's in no particular order. Like, the list is in no particular order. The first is, do not change your accent. Now, this is one lesson I learned because before I came to the UK, right, I was consuming a lot of, and this was like years before I even knew, or I even have had it in my heart that, oh, it would be nice to go elsewhere to see the world or see what else is out there, But in my global thinking self kind of perspective, I would there are times I would literally like put into Google like what does life look like in Somalia beyond the news. Like I want to see how travel content creators in Somalia, food content creators, like I want to meet content creators from Somalia, from Djibouti, from Eritrea, from Central Africa Republic, like these places. And these are not places you would ordinarily push yourself to explore. But I would look into those um content just because I was really keen to follow my curiosities there. And one of the things I learned was that, oh, unfortunately, some people, because they have a certain skin color, have to bend and try to blend into this new society they are in. And so one of the ways they do that is by code switching. And now they want to sound like the white people that they're seeing. And long before I came here, I was like, that makes no sense to me. Again, if something makes no sense, I'm not like I need somebody to convince me to do it. And I think now that I'm older, it's even making more sense why it makes no sense. Like, and one way to assess it is flipping it, right? Imagine Africa was the West and Africa had colonized the rest of the world. How weird would it be to to have people visit Africa, like white people visit Africa, and then they are trying to sound like Africans, like they're speaking like they're forcing and trying to sound like they speak our local languages and things like that just because they want to fit in. And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it, but it is also a privilege to now live in an era where you have the option to not want to code switch, right? Like if you're living in and I think maybe it's not fully a privilege because people still have to do it, but my own admonition is that living anywhere apart from your home, right? It brings the world to you in a different light. You tend to appreciate the different things. Like you don't want to go to places that you typically have at home. And even if you do, you want to see what makes it different. So there's this constant pursuit of difference. And that's where the unhealthy side is, the comparison and trying to say who is better or not, right? No, but there is genuinely a pursuit of difference, a pursuit of experiencing something different. And so in that, it would be sad to, move all this way and all of a sudden everybody sounds the same, everybody does the same thing, everybody eats the same thing, everybody wears the same clothes, everybody expresses themselves the same way, like back home. Imagine meeting like Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Koreans, Chinese people, Brazilians, like meeting all these people, and all of them is code, like all of them are code switching. Like everybody's trying to sound the same. Like you'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, I value that, but can you tell me more about your culture? Can you tell me more? Like what's it like living in Brazil? What's it like living in, you want to expand your experiences by pursuing difference. And so imagine what that would feel like if people are also looking to learn about your own culture, like as an African, and you are so dedicated to being exactly the opposite, like being on African, like you're so fixated on being on African, which is sad. Like you're because Africa is you. And I love Kwame Nkrumah's quotes when he says, I'm not African because I was born in Africa. I'm African because Africa was born in me. So imagine you're carrying Africa within your body, your entire DNA. And then, even though it comes so easily to you just by being your full self, no effort, nothing, people can experience a different part of the world. You say no. You now want to do this hard work of not being yourself because you want to fit into this system, right? And so my own admonition, my own first lesson was I was not going to do that. I was going to lean on who I am, my experiences, and the value that being African has, right? And I'm not going to try to prostitute the value of being African just so I can find validation. When I say prostitute the value of being African, I'm like trying to make being African cool or trying to make being African enticing. There is no need for that. There is no need for that because as I've come to even appreciate more, when you experience new cultures, you want to genuinely take it as it is, experience the difference, and decide if you want to do it again or not. They don't have to do too much. They don't have to bend backwards. No, this is just what it is. We eat like this. We do this like just having that it is what it is disposition and not trying to advertise and trying to. And this will even be a hot take, but I'm not even trying to push the Africa is not a continent narrative here. If you think Africa is a continent, that's fine. That is your ignorance. It just shows me you're ignorant, right? If you're open to learning, I can tell you, but I'm not even going to bear that activism from because I feel like just being African and you experiencing me as somebody from a different part of the world should get you intrigued and excited and open-minded to want to learn about my culture the way I want to learn about yours. But if there isn't that, I'm not going to be bending backwards to do that or to make it palatable to you, right? And so that has been my own version of don't change your accent. Speak like the way you speak. I'm not going to beat myself down if my English doesn't sound right. If I don't dress the way you're comfortable. Like, I'm not trying to oversell. I'm not trying to sell Africa. I'm not trying to sell myself here because I am. Period. If you're interested, I want to show you, I want to bring you into my world to see and experience all these amazing things. If you're genuinely interested, but I'm not coming to you trying to sell and oversell it. I think that just basking in that value of who we are as Africans is something we should do a bit more of. Like you don't need to prove yourself because you are like you're just it. You're just it, right? You don't need to prove yourself. And so one of the ways I'm doing that is I'm not changing my accent. I'm not trying to change my accent. What does that mean in pursuing opportunities? It's 2025 slash 2026. If places do not value who I am, in all the layers that I come in, based on the impact of all the things that have come before me through my ancestors, struggle for independence, the political sense, the fate of it, the cultural sense of it, like where I come from, my village, all the experiences, like my parents, all the things that come together to make me me, and all the skills, experiences, and expertise as a result of that I can provide to whatever project or initiative we're working on. If you can't see that, again, I'm not going to say, and it's even a good idea if I don't get those opportunities. There are tons, and that's one of the things I've also learned. There are tons of opportunities out there. I am never in lack, right? So I'm not changing I don't, please do not change your accent, but you do you, right? And the second point, which I have, I think, spoken a bit about with this don't change your accent perspective, is also value your roots, right? So I'm not going to go a bit deep into it. I feel like generally when you step outside of your home country and you go elsewhere, you tend to value, especially in societies that do not have the same values as you, but then you tend to see, oh, it makes sense why we have this value system. It actually is useful here. You're like, I should hold on tight to my roots. Africa is not that bad, to be honest, right? You just need to fix a few things, but it's not really that bad if you think about it, right? The other lesson is the world lies to us about conforming, but loves the difference. Again, speaking to the point about we get trained and indoctrinated with all these ideas to conform, to stick with the rule book, to play it safe, to do these things, just so it's easy for us to be managed by by the system, right? But really, they respond different when someone does something different. It's like everybody loves the difference. Like everybody loves to experience something different. And your society tells us not to do that. It tells us to conform. And there's a lie in that. And so I feel like that's one of the lessons I've come to really cherish with my time here. The fourth is see racism as a society's character flaw and find yours as well. So when you come here, or go anywhere, right? And I say when, not if, because you're going to go places. You're going to experience amazing things in your life. And that's on period. It's not an if issue. You are, because you're a global thinker. You're going to do amazing things for this world, starting from Africa. So when you go to these places, you will see that, okay, as a society, this is how these people behave. See it as a character flaw. See it as a systemic flaw. Like this is one of the not so great things about these people's culture. This is how they treat their visitors, or this is how they approach visitors or receive visitors, if I can say it that way, right? But do not use it as a way to judge them against the great things about your own culture. Let it be a point of thinking for you, in the sense of asking yourself, I wonder what else in my own society and culture is worth admitting to based on this character flaw that I'm seeing. It's like, oh, I see that there's a character flaw here in this society. I wonder what ours is. That has been my own exercise, because when I hear people talk about racism, and I have experienced like microaggressions, like low key microaggressions. That's funny to even think about it, but I've experienced like those kind of things, and I see it as a society's character flaw that has been like put into their system in a way. Not saying that the UK is racist, right? I'm just saying that there's a UK as a country, as a political entity, etc. But then there's like UK as people who have a culture and they have their way of doing things, and which is different from the Ghanaian way, which is different from the Nigerian way, which is, I won't even say the African way, because I'm not going to assume you all have one African way. There are general similarities, but so I look at I'm saying, oh, I say like, oh, okay, they have racism as a character flaw. Like this is how they approach visitors and they see visitors. What could be the one flaw of mine as a Ghanaian? And I think for me, one lesson I have learned as a character flaw for being a Ghanaian, is like, it's just, I think for me, like, also in our reception of visitors, we should I think do a bit more in assessing what kind of visitors we are also allowing into our home. So now it's like two extremes. Like we really are very hospitable, and then there are other societies who are like, no, we don't want you here. So I'm like, okay, maybe we should also reconsider the way we also receive people, not because we want to be like these people who are on the far end of the extreme, but it's like, where do we find a middle ground? Because I feel like there's some more work we can do with that, in being really better at assessing our visitors, right? So things like that. So just being objective in assessing, these cultures, and even seeing how they work out in different parts of the world. So even think about visitor reception, and think about what that looks like in a China, what that looks like in a Brazil, what that like, and you see different ways. Just that one theme of reception of visitors look different, and where there are gaps and things we could all learn from each other, right? The other one is, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth one is, the world doesn't have to receive around. Oh, the world doesn't have to revolve around white people. I think for me, coming, like being here, studying here has like really made it so apparent that, oh, we still came from a point in time where like white people had first mover advantage in exploring the world, and because they had this culture of, they wanted to push their culture in people's throats. They had first mover advantage of doing that to most of the other parts of the world. Well, most of the world, if I can say that. We're still living in that era, low key. Like we're fine. We are yet to move on from that era, and you can see why. Oh, a lot of things revolve around them. The way they do their business, the way they do things. It's like that's what we are taught back home as being professional. This is just one example. But I'm like, there are multiple ways of being professional. Why does it have to be this particular way? Oh, because white people had first mover advantage. They wrote these things down, and were teaching people like their method had first mover advantage, and so you can see how things move around, revolve around them and their culture and their preferences a lot more. But it doesn't have to be that way, and I feel like we can decide to do that. The world has to revolve around human beings because human beings live here, and that is something we should. It makes no sense why it doesn't it, right? Anyways, this is the fifth one. The sixth one is, if you value self-respect and dignity, don't go for greener pasture. I feel like this is going to be a hot one, and I wrote these lessons down. Yeah, do not travel anywhere for greener pasture. Go rather for exposure. Go rather for leverage and not greener pastures. I feel like the more I hear that people are traveling for greener pastures, the more like it feels like they come from a point of desperation. Once you're desperate, guys, you take you can literally take anything, right? So if you are looking to travel or do anything outside of your home country or experience the world outside of the home country, please do not go for greener pastures. Go for exposure, go for leverage. What is the difference? The difference is, if you know that, okay, this is how the world systems currently work. If I'm looking for some opportunities, I may not find it in Africa based on the profession I am pursuing. Let's say I'm a product designer, I'm a product manager. I might not find a lot of the opportunities here, which I can debate or argue against. But let's just guess or assume that's the case, right? Do not travel abroad selling all your selling all your things to raise money to move, just so you can now go and try to find greener pastures through those jobs, right? Rather, do good by yourself, have the skills and whatever, and then once like it's go time, you just like, you're like, oh, I was already good back home. This place is just like me standing in the spotlight. Like, this is now a marketplace for me where I can share my experience and skills with literally everyone else in the world. It's like saying that if we had like a big village market for the global job market, for example, you're like, oh, I could sell my tomatoes in my normal community neighborhood, weekly market, but I hear that there is a big market that happens once every month, or it happens whatever time, and this is where the location is. So you prepare, you get all your tomatoes, whatever you're selling, and these are all like metaphorical. You prepare all those things so that once you get to that market, you know already how to sell it, who to be selling it to, who to be partnering, where to put your store, how to design your store. Like, you already know. You're not now going there to say, maybe I'll find somebody who wants to sell tomatoes so I can resell theirs and make money. No, 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 no. That is how I want you to approach it. So be like, have your own skills, have your own things you want to do. Like, life doesn't depend on your traveling. And when your travel opportunity comes, it's like, now I can do more. I can build partnerships. I can explore different things. I can do more, right? And not because this West or whatever is better than your home country. It's just like I said, by movement to a different place, you can access different things, kind of thinking, right? So do not put a lot of pressure on your traveling to a different country. Like, value the opportunity as, oh, I can do more based on my access to this place, right? The next is one, two, three, four. Yeah. So this is my sixth or seventh. I guess I'll stop counting. Build yourself to leverage the global marketplace. I've already spoken about this. Next one is read the ingredients. Hey, food might be cheaper, but that's because it's not nature produced. I feel like that's a bar. Yeah, one thing I've learned is like, Charlie, if you're eating, if you're buying food here, you want to read the ingredients. If you really care about your health, read the ingredients. Make sure you're not eating something that is harmful to you, because again, this is one like culture flaw, or let's say society like character flaw. Like, food has been so commercialized, it's become like something that's like it's lost its value and meaning the way it does back home. Like, I think I have come to value how food should be approached. Eating and enjoying food, enjoying the produce of the land, if I can use that language. Like, it's an entire experience. The way we take a long time cooking. It's like that entire experience is in and of itself a beautiful moment in life, to just be, this is me romanticizing it, but you get what I mean. But when you come to the West, it's not like that. They're like, oh, they've over commercialized their food. Now the food has lost its soul. So now you're just eating, now they call it refuel your body. I'm like, come on guys, where is the soul in the food? And because of that, the unscrupulous people who obviously, because they want to make more money and all those things, they're not adding healthy things to the food. So it's always healthy to read the ingredients of what you're eating, so you don't go back home with any form of illnesses and sicknesses, right? Try to take very good care of yourself. Next one is, you will see why Africa is underdeveloped in so many levels. Like, I was telling this to a friend a couple of weeks ago. It's like, oh, I think this was like literally like one of the first few weeks when I go. I was like, oh, like it makes sense now why Africa is looking the way it behaves the way we do. Like, it makes sense. I'm not even going to say it's the fault of corrupt leaders or anything. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, it makes so much sense. You see how things don't work, and the roads are not fixed and everything. You come here and you're like, oh, it makes sense. So really what happened was, Africa was supposed to be like the garden and the workshop and where you capture things. Like, you get your things, you shop your things. Not even like you shop your things, like that's where like, if you had like what's the best analogy to give this? Let's say a workshop. Yes, let's say a workshop. Like, you see how make workshops like messy, like everything is all over the place. Yes, yes, yes. That is supposed to be it for the West. And I'm not. I'm trying to be objective here, and it's funny, but it's also a sad, funny situation. Like, oh, it makes sense. So it's like, oh, so like they take these things from Africa. Like, they don't care about the Africa, because obviously it's like a workshop. They're like the garden is like, you don't really care about what it looks like. Just take what you need and come fix your place, so that it's like the front of the shop looks amazing, but the back, nobody cares about the back. Nobody takes care of the back. Nobody is trying to fix the back. Whose job is it? No, we just take what we need and keep it pushing. I feel like there might be a better analogy to this, because I'm not capturing it well, but it'll make sense where the leakage from Africa is going when you travel. It's like, oh, okay, it's one thing to hear these stories about, oh, the West is clean, it's organized, and all those things. And for you to come here like, oh, when you know your history, you're like, oh, it makes sense why. Of course, if you're only picking things and getting things from there, obviously, it's like a pantry. Literally, it's like your pantry. If it's messy or whatever, a pantry doesn't belong to you in this case, right? You just go pick what you need and come dress up your place. But that has been my own experience. Like it just makes sense. I'm not going to go into the sad political conversations around it, but it just brings the entire image together for you to understand. Another thing I have learned is don't blame corrupt leaders. Scarcity and poverty. Okay, yeah, and I was like, I was not even going to blame corrupt leaders. I'm like, and this is funny, right? I'm like, if you lived in this same analogy of like living in the back, and it was your job to like clean up these places, and you weren't getting enough, it would make sense why some people will become like they because they have scarcity mindset. They'll be like, let me take care of myself. Oh, the way things are going. No, if we leave these people, they will keep taking. Oh, how about my own generation? Right? At least something's got to give. So it's like based on the scarcity, it's like I don't know if I will get this opportunity again. Let me make the most of it. So now that goes into the corruption and taking and taking and taking instead of doing better by your people, right? And it's also I feel like it's also like a poverty mindset because to be honest, if you weren't hungry, like very hungry, you wouldn't do certain things for food, or you wouldn't do certain things for your definition of food, which is luxury, access to the world, like those things. If you weren't very hungry, like if you weren't very poor, you wouldn't have that need for those things. But there are poor people who have dignity and integrity, and that is where the character flaw comes from. And so sometimes you think about it, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. The hard thing is not being corrupt. The hard thing to do is having integrity and dignity and saying you will not be corrupt. It's like to not be corrupt requires more work than it is to be corrupt. And so it makes sense if people do not have that level of muscle to not be corrupt, because it's very easy to just take things, but it takes a level of self-control that most people may not have, regardless of if they are poor or not in this case. But sometimes you think about these things and on the human sense of it, it's like, yeah, it makes sense why people are not for me personally, in my devil's advocate position, when I talk about leadership in Africa, I would say, Charlie, sometimes you just have to think about it objectively, put yourself in their shoes. And that's not to say you are approving of it or that you're condoning it. You're just stating your assessment of it, right? You can describe something without condoning it, which is not my case. The next point is don't make yourself inferior to no one. I'm going to read that like 4 or 5 times and not give an explanation. Don't make yourself inferior to no one. Don't make yourself inferior to no one. Do not make yourself inferior to no one. Do not make yourself inferior to no one. Because the truth is, you are never inferior to anybody. Don't believe it. The systems that human beings have built may look like it, but you are not. You are not. And I don't care what kind of background you've had, what kind of, like, you are never inferior to anybody. People should approach other people with respect, with curiosity, and open-mindedness. The other person who doesn't is the one who should be embarrassed. No, you. So do not make yourself inferior to no one, because you are definitely not. Even in situations, require you to work in certain jobs or do certain things just to get by. Like, do not ever let that impact your self-confidence, impact your self-value. Never. that is just the situation at hand. That is what you I mean, like some things like you have to do what you have to do. There are people in this country who do like jobs that they don't have to do, but that's how they can put food on the table. But that doesn't mean you should disrespect them. No, doesn't mean you should disrespect them. They are not inferior because of what the work they do. Are you serious? No. So that's the point. I said I was not going to explain, but yes. Um, Flip the discrimination if needed. Ooh, I put an asterisk here. This is going to be juicy. Thank you so much for staying this long. It's almost 40 minutes, if you haven't already noticed. But again, this is like part one. I will be updating this as I progress, being here. But flip the discrimination if needed. I'm not saying be discriminatory. Of course not. That is illegal. Do not do illegal things. um, but I should call it flip the narrative if needed. So, like, let's say, I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story. There's this event I went to one time, and um, I went there, met a couple of people, and then I introduced myself to a white lady. She told me her name, I told her mine. And I was even helping out at the events and things like that. So, like, we had multiple interactions. The next week, I come to the same event again, and this person is looking at, and this lady is looking at me like, and I had not even changed my hair, which is not an excuse. Anyways, this person is looking at me like, oh, my name is XYZ. I'm like, oh, my name is ABCD. And and then I go ahead and I'm like, oh, have you met before? It looks like I this was me flipping the narrative. I'm like, if you don't remember me, then we don't remember each other. I'm not going to be the one feeling bad that you don't remember. I'm like, it's weird that you don't remember me. And guess what? The very next week it happened. So guess what? The very next week, I was the first to introduce myself and say, hello, my name is this. May I know your name? Oh my God, you can call me petty if you like. Right. Yes, this is your reward for sticking with me. There are more juicy things coming right up. But yeah. And then there was another instance where I met somebody at another, school event sometime. This person is obviously white. And a couple of weeks later, I meet him and another, let's say, mutual acquaintance, right? And they're standing together and they're talking, and I go, the other person is black, is African, I think Ghanaian, yes. So when I walk up to them, I rather focus on the Ghanaian. I'm saying, hey, hello, how are you? We're talking. I think actually it was the Ghanaian guy who started talking to me. I was just responding to him, and I just smiled at this other white guy. Now, tell me why a couple of days later, this white guy sees me again, and he's like, oh, the other day I seemed like I wasn't like chatty, and is everything okay? I'm like, oh yeah, everything is okay. I just didn't think you recognized me, and I didn't want to make it awkward. So, and then he didn't say anything. But this was as a result of this previous experience I was telling you with this lady. So I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, if these people think we all look alike, why not go with it? Why do I? If we all look alike, then okay, all of you also look alike to me. I mean, there's sometimes I do that. Oh. So it's fun. It's fun to do that. It's fun to do that sometimes. Flip the narrative. So sometimes you see where there's some shops where they make you feel like, oh, it hasn't happened to me, something I've watched online, let me not say it happened to me. Like somebody, like, there's this content TikTok I saw where like the black man was asking every white person if their hair was their own hair, which is very funny. And another where he's asking other white people, oh, do you work here? Do you work here? I've been doing that sometimes. It's just oh my God. But yeah, I try to flip the narrative so that people can see how awkward it is. And I guess make it easier for all of us to coexist in this world where we've been born in. But that's a fun little exercise you can commit to when you travel. The next one is, and I have three more after this one, then we can call it an episode. It says, the brainwashing becomes clear when you wear your air quotes expensive wig next to a Peruvian. And this is especially for me as a woman. When I got here, when I was coming to the UK, I came with my like human hair extensions and wigs and things like that. And when I got here, I decided, you know what? No, I don't want to do. I want to build a relationship. I want to, like, if I want to see more of the world, I should be able to put myself in a scenario where I can take full care of myself, from my hair, so because back home, I could go to my hairdresser to do like cornrows for me, to wash my hair, those things. But I'm like, at some point, I should be able to do these things for myself. Like, what kind of society do we live in that's basic cleaning, washing your own hair is something that you have to outsource? It's like, again, it was such an interesting concept to me. So I told myself, you know what, I want, well, now that I live in a society where I don't have that, I want to push myself to learn to have a new relationship with my hair. And so there have been instances, and that's something I noticed, like there have been instances where I'm like, I would see like somebody who has like very long hair, like maybe either a white person or an Asian person, like with very long hair. And then I would think to myself, imagine how I would have looked like standing by this person wearing a wig that would have come from them. Like, I'm like, they don't have to wear wigs. Why do I have to wear wigs? Why can't I just wear my own hair out there? It's like, there's some brainwashing that has happened there, especially for us women. And that is a conversation that needs to be had. And for me, I think one of the ways I'm just trying to reposition myself with these things is just seeing what has been marketed and seeing beyond it as beauty standards. So yeah, it's very funny to stand by to wear your Peruvian wig standing by an actual Peruvian woman who has that hair, and you're asking yourself, hairs grows on her head. Does yours? No, it doesn't. So what's wrong with your hair? Actually, somebody has approached me. There are some cosmates who've approached me asking, um, one time after I took out my braids, they were like, why did you cut your hair? And I'm like, oh, it wasn't my hair. It was extensions. I braided my hair with it. I was explaining to them the concept of braiding, whatever. So one of them had a braid. I was telling her, okay, so you see how you braided this friend's hair, or this friend has a braid. I also did that, but because my hair isn't as long as yours, I got extensions. And then I explained to her, and then she was like, oh, that's nice. And they approached me with curiosity. If they hadn't, I would have bothered. And one of them, like another guy made a comment in their own language. I don't remember. I don't know which language it was. And he said something. They were all laughing. I'm like, tell me what he said. And then the lady was like, oh, he said that you guys don't wear your original hair. And I was like, oh, we do. And I didn't know how to explain, because guess what? Just to my right, there were two African ladies who were in their wigs. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm caught between, what do I say? I'm like, oh, we do. So then I said, oh, we do wear our hair. People just prefer different, but we do wear our hair. And it's like, oh, but so they were asking if the hair I now had, as they were looking at me, was my real hair. I was like, yes, this is my real hair. This is my original hair. And I was like, interesting. So that's something I have also noticed, by the way. The next one is, not everyone struggles to assimilate or adjust. Globally minded people do not. It's true. If you're globally minded and you're genuinely curious about this world, this neighborhood that God has brought you into, you prepare yourself, not because you're dying to travel, but you genuinely want to know more about this place you live in, right? And so it won't be hard for you to assimilate. Like you already know things about new, like different places. I was telling you, like I watch videos and try to find content pieces on some of the most remotest parts of Africa because that is where my fixation is. And I approach that to every other place in the world, not because I'm dying to go there. Actually, I'm dying to go to the places in Africa more than anywhere else. But the point is, globally minded people do not struggle to assimilate anywhere or everywhere. Do not let the internet lie to you. But that's not obviously speaking for everybody. There are also some globally minded people who still struggle. But my point is, like, if you operate in a system where the world is you flatten the world to your mind, there are some things that can make it easier for you to not feel like an other person wherever you go. Then there is Africans are more globally positioned than they know. Ooh, it's true. It's true. One thing I have learned, like most of us Africans, we consume a lot of content that isn't even African. And so we know so much about every part of the world. Like we watch Chinese movies, we listen to Korean music, we know Italian brands, we know US companies, we know we know everything about everyone everywhere except for ourselves because of the content we like our system it's designed. And so I feel like we are already globally positioned. And so that is something to look into. It's like, there's so much about so many places everywhere else in the world. So why do you feel like you need to prove yourself? You are very well educated, in my opinion, because of all the things you know about everywhere else in the world. So that's another reason to not feel inferior, right? But then I want to challenge you to also learn more about Africa, right? Based on that same energy as well. And then the last one is, we consume too much of the West. We consume too much of content everywhere else. It's about time we invested in consuming African content a bit more, and that is where the opportunity is. Whatever you do when you do travel, think about all the ideas that come to mind and see how you can bring that to the African contents for Africans to also enjoy, right? And that is where the opportunity is. But so I think all the things I have said all the things I have said are just from my own perspectives. These are all like my own musings and things and thoughts, really, about living abroad for the last couple of months. But I am going to bring you more as I progress. But let me know which of these you found intriguing, funny, or interesting in the comment section or in the Google form below. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. We are almost 100 subscribers on YouTube. Oh my God, I can't wait. I feel like I want to do something. I want to do something for the 100, like to celebrate 100 subscribers. So I'll take any ideas you get, especially for those of you listening to me from other parts of the world. But yeah, thank you so much. This is also a reminder for you to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.